Seattle in the 1970s was a city of contrasts, where technological innovation met the raw beauty of the Pacific Northwest. The skyline was dotted with cranes, hinting at the rapid growth spurred by the burgeoning tech industry. Amidst this backdrop, Karen Mitchell navigated her life as a single mother with unwavering determination. Karen, a 32-year-old secretary by day, harbored dreams of becoming a writer. Her evenings were spent hunched over a typewriter in her modest apartment, crafting stories that often faced rejection. Despite the setbacks, her resolve never wavered, driven by her love for her 10-year-old daughter, Emily. Emily was the light in Karen's life, her imaginative drawings plastering their fridge, each one a testament to her dreams of becoming an artist. James Carter, on the other hand, epitomized the success of Seattle's tech boom. At 38, he was the founder of a pioneering software company that had taken the industry by storm. Yet, behind the sleek office and the accolades, James felt a profound loneliness. His mother, Lydia, a formidable woman in her 60s, constantly pressured him to settle down, exacerbating his sense of isolation. One evening, as James sat in his office overlooking the city, Lydia called with an announcement that sent a ripple through his carefully managed life. "James, I'm hosting a family gathering next month, and I expect you to bring a fiancée," she declared. Her tone left no room for argument. James knew better than to protest. Lydia's matchmaking attempts were relentless. Desperation drove James to consider an unorthodox solution. Through a mutual acquaintance, he learned of Karen's situation and her need for financial stability. The idea of hiring her to pose as his fiancée took root. It seemed the perfect arrangement. Karen needed the money, and James needed to appease his mother. For Karen, the proposal was both bewildering and tempting. The payment James offered would secure Emily's future and allow her to focus more on her writing. After much deliberation, she agreed to meet James to discuss the details. The meeting was set for the following week, marking the beginning of an arrangement that would challenge both their worlds. As Karen prepared for the meeting, she couldn't help but feel a mix of apprehension and curiosity. The thought of deceiving someone, even for a noble cause, weighed heavily on her conscience. Yet, the prospect of financial stability and the chance to provide a better life for Emily was too compelling to ignore. James, too, found himself in uncharted territory. He had always kept his personal life private, and now he was about to let a stranger in, even if only for a facade. The stakes were high, but so was the potential for success. Lydia's satisfaction was crucial, and this arrangement seemed the only way to achieve it without succumbing to another one of her disastrous matchmaking setups. As the week progressed, both Karen and James felt the impending meeting loom larger in their minds. They were two individuals from vastly different worlds, about to embark on a journey that neither could predict. The question remained, could a relationship built on a lie ever lead to something real? With that thought, the day of the meeting arrived. Karen dressed carefully, choosing a professional yet approachable outfit, while James prepared himself for a conversation that could potentially change his life. They were ready to step into the unknown, driven by their respective hopes and fears, setting the stage for a story of unexpected connections and the echoes of love that would follow. James and Karen met at a quiet cafe in downtown Seattle. The establishment was cozy, filled with the comforting aroma of fresh coffee and the murmur of patrons engaged in soft conversation. James arrived first, choosing a secluded corner booth that would afford them some privacy. Karen entered the cafe a few minutes later, her heart pounding with a mix of anxiety and determination. She spotted James immediately. His presence was unmistakable with his confident posture and sharp attire. As she approached the table, he stood up and extended his hand, a gesture that was both formal and reassuring. "Karen Mitchell," he asked, his voice smooth and businesslike. "Yes, nice to meet you, Mr. Carter," Karen replied, shaking his hand firmly. "Please, call me James," he said, offering her a seat. They both settled into the booth, and after ordering coffee, James began to explain the details of his proposal. "I understand this might seem unconventional," James started, choosing his words carefully. "But I believe this arrangement could be mutually beneficial. My mother's insistence on my personal life has become quite persistent. I need someone to pose as my fiancée for an upcoming family gathering to appease her. Karen nodded, listening intently. And what exactly would be expected of me, she asked, wanting to fully understand the implications of the arrangement. We would need to appear as a couple, both at the family gathering and possibly at a few other events, James explained. You would need to know some details about my life, and I about yours, to make our act convincing. I will compensate you generously for your time and effort. Karen considered the proposal, weighing the ethical dilemma against the financial security it could provide. How long would this arrangement last? She asked. Initially, just for the family gathering, James replied. But depending on how well it goes, we might need to extend it for a short while to maintain the illusion. Karen's thoughts raced. The money he was offering could pay off debts, secure Emily's education, and provide a cushion that would allow her to focus on her writing. Despite the deceit involved, the benefits were undeniable. All right, she said finally. I'll do it. James's relief was palpable. Thank you, Karen. I appreciate your willingness to help. We'll need to spend some time together to make this convincing. Can you start tomorrow? Karen agreed, and they spent the next hour discussing the details. James provided her with information about his family, his preferences, and his routines. Karen shared enough about her own life to create a believable backstory. They agreed to keep the arrangement strictly professional, maintaining clear boundaries to avoid complications. As Karen left the cafe, she felt a strange mix of excitement and apprehension. The arrangement was unconventional, but it was also a chance to change her and Emily's lives for the better. James, on the other hand, felt a sense of hope that this plan might finally give him some respite from his mother's meddling. The next day, Karen arrived at James's apartment for their first official preparation session. The apartment was sleek and modern, with large windows offering a stunning view of the city. James welcomed her inside and led her to the living room, where he had laid out notes and photos to help her get familiar with his life. They spent the afternoon sharing stories, practicing their act, and ironing out details. Despite the formal nature of their arrangement, they found themselves laughing at shared jokes and discovering common interests. James was surprised by Karen's wit and resilience, while Karen found James's dedication and vulnerability endearing. As the sun set over the Seattle skyline, they concluded their session, feeling more prepared and surprisingly comfortable in each other's company. I think we'll make a good team, James said as he walked Karen to the door. I hope so, Karen replied with a smile. For both our sakes. With their first preparation behind them, they were ready to face the challenge ahead. The family gathering loomed, but for the first time, both felt a cautious optimism about the unusual path they had chosen. The days leading up to the family gathering were a whirlwind of preparation. Karen and James spent every spare moment together, perfecting their act. James's modern apartment became their base of operations, where they worked on creating a believable love story. Karen arrived at James's apartment early one morning, dressed casually but neatly, ready for another day of practice. James greeted her at the door, a hint of a smile on his face. Good morning, Karen. Ready to dive in? Absolutely, Karen replied, trying to match his enthusiasm. They settled into the living room, where James had laid out more notes and photographs from past family events. We need to make sure you know everyone who will be there, James said, handing Karen a stack of photographs. Names, relationships, key details. My mother, Lydia, is the most important one to impress. Karen studied the photos, asking questions about each person. James provided anecdotes and insights, helping her understand the dynamics of his family. As they worked, Karen couldn't help but notice how James's demeanor softened when he talked about his family, particularly his mother. You're very close to your mother, aren't you? Karen asked, sensing a deep bond. Yes, James admitted. She raised me on her own after my father passed away. She's always been my rock, even if she can be a bit overbearing at times. Karen nodded, understanding the complexity of familial relationships. I get it. My daughter Emily is my world. Everything I do is for her. James's expression softened further. Emily seems like a wonderful kid. I'd love to meet her properly one day. Karen smiled, touched by his sincerity. I think she'd like that. They moved on to practicing their backstory, sharing details about how they supposedly met and fell in love. We should have a memorable first meeting story, James suggested. Something that will stick in people's minds. How about a bookstore? Karen offered. We could say we met while reaching for the same book. James chuckled. That's perfect. It's simple and believable. And it fits both of our personalities. As they continued to practice, Karen found herself becoming more comfortable with the charade. She appreciated James's attention to detail and his willingness to listen to her input. They developed a rhythm, seamlessly blending their stories and personalities. One afternoon, James suggested a change of scenery. How about we take a walk? It might help us relax and get into character. Karen agreed, and they headed to a nearby park. The fresh air and greenery provided a welcome break from the confines of James's apartment. They strolled along the paths, discussing their favorite books, movies, and hobbies. At one point, James turned to Karen with a serious expression. Karen, I know this is all just an arrangement, but I want you to know I truly appreciate your help. This means a lot to me. Karen felt a warmth spread through her chest. I'm happy to help, James. And who knows? Maybe this will be good for both of us. Their conversations flowed naturally, and they found themselves genuinely enjoying each other's company. The more time they spent together, the more Karen saw James not just as a successful businessman, but as a person with hopes, fears, and dreams. As the family gathering drew closer, Karen decided it was time for James to meet Emily properly. She invited him to their apartment for dinner, wanting to see how he interacted with her daughter outside of their rehearsed roles. James arrived at Karen's modest apartment, carrying a bouquet of flowers and a small gift for Emily. Emily, excited and curious, greeted him with wide eyes. Hello, Mr. Carter. Hello, Emily. You can call me James, he said with a warm smile, handing her the gift. I brought you something. Emily's eyes lit up as she unwrapped the gift, a beautifully illustrated book. Thank you. I love books. As they sat down for dinner, Karen observed the interaction between James and Emily. James was patient and kind, engaging Emily in conversation and making her laugh. It was a side of him Karen hadn't seen before, and it touched her deeply. After dinner, when Emily had gone to bed, Karen and James sat in the living room, reflecting on the evening. You're great with her, Karen said softly. James shrugged modestly. She's a wonderful kid. You've done an amazing job raising her. Karen felt a surge of gratitude. Thank you, James. That means a lot. As they said goodnight, Karen felt a growing sense of connection with James. Their arrangement was supposed to be a simple business deal, but it was becoming something more. The lines between reality and pretense were beginning to blur, and she wondered what the future held for them. The day of the family gathering arrived, bringing with it a blend of anticipation and nerves for both Karen and James. They had rehearsed their act thoroughly, but now it was time to put it to the test. James arrived at Karen's apartment to pick her up, looking impeccably dressed in a tailored suit. Karen, dressed in an elegant yet modest dress, greeted him with a reassuring smile. Ready? James asked, extending his arm. As ready as I'll ever be, Karen replied, taking his arm as they headed to his car. The drive to Lydia's house was filled with last-minute rehearsals and supportive words. Karen felt a mixture of anxiety and determination. She wanted to make a good impression not only for the sake of their arrangement, but also because she had grown to care about James. Lydia's home was an imposing mansion on the outskirts of the city, surrounded by meticulously manicured gardens. As they pulled up to the driveway, Karen took a deep breath, steeling herself for the evening ahead. Just be yourself, James whispered as they approached the front door. You're going to do great. They were greeted by Lydia's butler, who escorted them into a grand living room where Lydia and several other family members were gathered. Lydia, elegant and imposing in a chic dress, smiled warmly as they entered. "James, darling," she exclaimed, embracing her son. "And this must be Karen." Karen stepped forward, offering her hand with a smile. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Carter." "The pleasure is mine, dear." "Call me Lydia," she replied, her eyes appraising Karen with interest. James introduced Karen to the rest of the family, including his cousins, aunts, and uncles. Karen did her best to remember the names and faces, making small talk and answering questions about her relationship with James. The evening progressed smoothly, with Karen and James presenting a convincing portrayal of a couple deeply in love. They shared anecdotes about their courtship, skillfully weaving their rehearsed stories into the conversation. Karen's warmth and charm quickly won over most of the family members. However, the true test came when Lydia pulled Karen aside for a private conversation. They walked to a quieter part of the house, where Lydia offered Karen a seat by a large window overlooking the garden. "Karen, I'm delighted to see James so happy," Lydia began, her tone gentle but probing. "Tell me, what do you love most about my son?" Karen took a moment to compose her thoughts, wanting her answer to be sincere. "I love James's dedication and passion for what he does. He cares deeply about the people in his life and always strives to make things better for them. And he has a kind heart, which I admire greatly." Lydia nodded, seemingly satisfied with the response. "He is a remarkable man. I just want to make sure he's with someone who truly appreciates him." "I assure you, Lydia, I do," Karen replied earnestly. "James means a lot to me." As they rejoined the rest of the party, Karen felt a sense of relief. Lydia seemed to have accepted her, at least for now. The evening continued with dinner, where Karen and James navigated more conversations and subtle inquiries from the family. Just when Karen thought they were in the clear, an unexpected guest arrived. Tom, Karen's ex-husband, walked into the dining room, his presence immediately causing a stir. He had somehow learned about the gathering and decided to show up uninvited. "Karen?" Tom's voice cut through the chatter, his expression a mix of surprise and curiosity. Karen's heart sank as all eyes turned towards her. James, sensing the tension, stepped forward protectively. "Tom, what are you doing here?" "I heard about the gathering and wanted to see my family," Tom replied, his eyes narrowing as he took in the scene. "I didn't know you were bringing a fiancée." Lydia, sensing the potential for conflict, quickly intervened. "Why don't we all sit down and enjoy dessert?" she suggested, trying to defuse the situation. Karen's mind raced as she tried to think of how to handle the unexpected disruption. She had to maintain the facade while dealing with Tom's unwelcome presence. She took a deep breath and met Tom's gaze with a determined look. "Tom, this is neither the time nor the place," she said firmly. "We can talk later." Tom looked taken aback but nodded reluctantly. The rest of the evening passed in a tense blur, with Karen and James managing to keep up appearances despite the undercurrent of unease. As they finally left Lydia's house, Karen felt a mixture of relief and exhaustion. "I'm sorry about Tom," she said quietly as they drove away. "I didn't expect him to show up." "It's not your fault," James replied, his hand gently squeezing hers. "You handled it well. We'll deal with whatever comes next together." Karen smiled, grateful for James's support. Despite the unexpected hiccup, they had survived the evening. Their arrangement was proving more challenging than anticipated, but it was also bringing them closer in ways neither had foreseen. In the days following the family gathering, Karen and James found themselves spending even more time together. What began as a business arrangement slowly started to feel like something more genuine. They continued to practice their act, but their conversations grew deeper and more personal. One afternoon, they decided to take a break from their rehearsals and visit the Pike Place Market. The bustling market, with its vibrant stalls of fresh produce, flowers, and seafood, offered a welcome change of pace. As they walked through the market, Karen found herself relaxing in James's company, enjoying the lively atmosphere. Have you ever tried these? James asked, pointing to a stall selling freshly made donuts. Karen shook her head. No, but they smell amazing. James bought a bag of donuts, and they shared them as they strolled through the market. The sweet, warm treats seemed to melt away any remaining tension between them. I can't believe I've lived in Seattle for so long and never tried these, Karen said, savoring a bite. James smiled. It's easy to get caught up in our routines and miss the simple pleasures. As they wandered, they talked about their favorite books, movies, and childhood memories. Karen found herself laughing more easily, and James seemed to open up in ways she hadn't seen before. Tell me about Emily, James said as they paused by a stall selling handmade crafts. She's an incredible kid, Karen replied, her face lighting up. She's so creative and full of energy. She loves to draw and paint. I want to give her every opportunity to pursue her passions. James nodded, his expression thoughtful. She sounds wonderful. You're doing a great job raising her. Karen felt a warmth spread through her chest at his words. Thank you, James. That means a lot. Their time together at the market solidified the growing bond between them. They were no longer just playing roles, they were genuinely getting to know each other. As they left the market, James suggested they visit his favorite bookstore nearby. The bookstore was a cozy, independent shop filled with the scent of old paper and wood. James led Karen to a section filled with classic literature. This is my sanctuary, he said, running a hand along the spines of the books. Whenever I need to clear my head, I come here. Karen picked up a worn copy of Pride and Prejudice. This was my mother's favorite book, she said softly. James smiled. A classic. There's something comforting about revisiting the stories that shaped us. They spent hours browsing the shelves, sharing their favorite passages and discussing the themes that resonated with them. It was a peaceful, intimate experience that deepened their connection. That evening, as they sat in James's apartment, Karen felt a sense of contentment she hadn't experienced in a long time. They ordered takeout and continued their conversation over dinner. The walls that had initially separated them were slowly crumbling. Just as they were finishing their meal, James received a call from his business partner, Daniel. There's a problem with the product launch, Daniel said, his voice tense. Our competitor is trying to undercut us. James's expression hardened. I'll handle it. Let's meet tomorrow morning to discuss our strategy. After hanging up, James sighed, running a hand through his hair. I'm sorry, Karen. Work never seems to give me a break. Karen reached across the table and took his hand. You don't have to apologize. I'm here for you, James. We'll figure this out together. Her words seemed to ease some of his tension. Thank you, Karen. Your support means more than you know. The next day, James and Karen met with Daniel and the rest of the team to tackle the crisis. Karen's insights and calm demeanor proved invaluable, helping them devise a strategy to counter their competitors' moves. James was impressed by her intelligence and poise under pressure. As the crisis unfolded, Karen and James worked side by side, their partnership growing stronger. They faced late nights and early mornings, but their mutual respect and admiration deepened. In the midst of the chaos, Karen's ex-husband, Tom, continued to make his presence known. He called Karen, asking to meet and discuss their past and future. Karen was torn, wanting to resolve things with Tom for Emily's sake, but wary of his intentions. One evening, after a particularly long day at work, Karen met Tom at a quiet cafe. What do you want, Tom? She asked, her tone firm. I want to be part of Emily's life again, Tom replied, looking sincere. I made mistakes, but I've changed. Karen sighed, her heart heavy. Emily deserves a father, but she also deserves stability. You can't just come and go as you please. Tom nodded, his expression contrite. I understand. I'll prove to you that I'm serious about this. Karen left the cafe with mixed feelings. She knew she needed to protect Emily, but she also saw the possibility of giving her daughter the relationship with her father that she deserved. Back at James's apartment, she confided in him about her meeting with Tom. "It's complicated," she said, her voice tinged with frustration. James listened, offering support and understanding. "Whatever you decide, I'll be here for you and Emily." Karen felt a deep sense of gratitude and affection for James. Their arrangement had evolved into something much more meaningful. As they faced challenges together, they were discovering that love could indeed blossom from the most unexpected circumstances. The days following the crisis at work brought Karen and James even closer. Their partnership had become seamless, and their bond was growing stronger. However, the simplicity of their arrangement was about to be tested. It was a crisp, sunny afternoon when Karen and James attended a public event hosted by Lydia. The event was a charity gala, held at a lavish hotel downtown, attended by Seattle's elite. Lydia had insisted on their presence, wanting to showcase her son's happy relationship to the world. Karen and James arrived at the event arm in arm, exuding the image of a perfect couple. They mingled with guests, sharing laughs and stories, maintaining the facade they had so carefully crafted. The evening seemed to be going smoothly until Karen spotted Tom across the room, talking to a reporter. Her heart skipped a beat. Tom had no business being at this event, and his presence could spell disaster. Karen's mind raced with thoughts of how to keep the situation under control. Just as she was about to inform James, Tom approached them with a determined look in his eyes. "Karen, James," he said, his voice loud enough to draw the attention of nearby guests. "I didn't expect to see you here." "Tom," Karen replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "What are you doing here?" "I have some news that everyone should hear," Tom announced, looking directly at the reporter he had brought with him. "This relationship is a sham. Karen and James are not engaged. They've been deceiving everyone." The room fell silent as gasps of surprise echoed around them. Lydia's eyes widened in shock, and murmurs spread through the crowd. Karen felt a wave of panic, but James's hand tightened around hers, grounding her. "Tom, this is neither the time nor the place for your outbursts," James said, his voice calm but firm. "If you have something to say, we can discuss it privately." Tom shook his head, his expression defiant. "No, this needs to be said publicly. The people deserve to know the truth." Lydia stepped forward, her face a mask of controlled anger. "Tom, how dare you come here and cause a scene? What you're saying is preposterous." Tom turned to Lydia, his voice rising. "I have proof. I have messages and emails that show Karen and James concocted this fake engagement for appearances." The reporter, sensing a scandal, asked Tom to show the evidence. Tom pulled out his phone and began reading aloud messages between Karen and James that outlined their initial arrangement. The room's atmosphere grew tense as the details were revealed. Karen's heart sank as she looked around the room, seeing the shock and disappointment on the faces of James's family and colleagues. She could feel her world crumbling around her. Lydia, looking hurt and betrayed, turned to James. "Is this true, James? Did you deceive us all?" James faced his mother, his expression pained but resolute. "Mother, it started as an arrangement, but it's grown into something real. Karen and I care about each other deeply." Lydia's eyes flashed with anger. "I trusted you, James. How could you do this?" Karen felt tears welling up in her eyes. "Lydia, please believe us. It may have started as a charade, but our feelings are real now." The tension was palpable. James, sensing the need for immediate action, turned to the guests. "Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the deception. It was a mistake, and I take full responsibility. But please understand that our intentions were never to hurt anyone. Karen and I truly care for each other." Tom, seeing that he had caused enough damage, walked away, leaving Karen and James to face the fallout. Lydia, still reeling from the revelation, excused herself and left the event. The rest of the evening was a blur of apologies and damage control. James and Karen spoke to as many guests as possible, trying to explain their side of the story. Despite their efforts, the scandal had already taken root, and they knew it would take time to repair the damage. Back at James's apartment, the weight of the evening's events hit them hard. Karen felt exhausted and defeated. "I'm so sorry, James. This is all my fault." James shook his head, taking her hands in his. "No, Karen. We're in this together. We knew there would be risks, and we'll face the consequences together." Karen looked into his eyes, seeing the sincerity and determination there. "What are we going to do now?" James sighed, running a hand through his hair. "We need to talk to my mother and try to make her understand. And we need to decide how to move forward from here." The next morning, James called Lydia, requesting a private meeting to explain everything. Lydia agreed, but her tone was cold and distant. Karen knew it would be an uphill battle to regain Lydia's trust. As they prepared for the meeting, Karen and James discussed their strategy. "We need to be honest and open," James said. "She deserves to know the full story." When they arrived at Lydia's house, the tension was thick in the air. Lydia greeted them with a stony expression, leading them to the living room. "Explain," Lydia said, her voice icy. James took a deep breath and began recounting the events that led to the arrangement. He explained his desperation to appease Lydia's expectations and how Karen had agreed to help. Karen added her perspective, emphasizing the financial security she needed for Emily. Lydia listened in silence, her expression unreadable. When they finished, she finally spoke. "I'm deeply disappointed in both of you. Trust is not something easily regained." James nodded, his voice steady. "I understand, Mother. We're willing to do whatever it takes to earn back your trust." Lydia's gaze softened slightly. "You say your feelings are real now. Prove it. Show me that this relationship is more than just a facade." Karen and James exchanged a determined look. "We will," Karen said. "We care about each other deeply, and we'll prove it to you." The road ahead was uncertain, but Karen and James were ready to face it together. Their feelings for each other had grown into something real and strong, and they were determined to overcome the challenges that lay ahead. The days following the revelation were fraught with tension and uncertainty. Karen and James had to navigate a landscape where their every move was scrutinized, not just by Lydia but by the public eye. The scandal had made headlines, and they could feel the weight of judgment pressing down on them. Karen spent many nights lying awake, replaying the events in her mind. She questioned her decisions and worried about the impact on Emily. She wondered if the arrangement, which had seemed like a simple solution, was worth all the turmoil it had brought into their lives. One evening, Karen and James decided to take a walk to clear their heads. They strolled through a quiet park, the evening air cool and refreshing. The silence between them was comfortable, yet filled with unspoken thoughts. "Do you regret it?" Karen asked softly, breaking the silence. "Do you regret starting this arrangement?" James was quiet for a moment before answering. "No, Karen, I don't regret it. Despite everything, meeting you and Emily has been one of the best things to happen to me." Karen felt a warmth spread through her chest. "I feel the same way, James. But I can't help worrying about how this will affect Emily and our future." James stopped walking and turned to face her. "We'll figure it out, Karen. We can get through this together. We just need to take it one step at a time." As they continued their walk, Karen felt a renewed sense of determination. She knew that their relationship was worth fighting for, and she was willing to do whatever it took to make things right. The next morning, Karen received a call from her ex-husband, Tom. He sounded contrite, apologizing for his outburst at the gala. "I didn't mean to cause so much trouble," he said. "I just wanted to see Emily and make amends." Karen sighed, feeling the weight of his words. "Tom, you need to understand that your actions have consequences. If you want to be part of Emily's life, you need to show that you're serious and stable." Tom promised to prove himself, and Karen agreed to let him visit Emily under her supervision. She hoped that he would follow through on his words for Emily's sake. Later that day, Karen and James met with Lydia again, determined to prove their sincerity. They shared more about their personal lives, their hopes, and their dreams, showing Lydia the genuine connection that had developed between them. Lydia listened, her expression softening slightly. "I see that you both care deeply for each other. But trust takes time to rebuild. You'll need to show me, through your actions, that this relationship is real." Karen and James nodded, understanding the challenge ahead. They knew it wouldn't be easy, but they were committed to making it work. Over the next few weeks, they made a concerted effort to rebuild trust with Lydia and the people around them. They spent time with Lydia, helping her with charity events and involving her in their lives. Slowly, the ice began to thaw. Meanwhile, Tom started visiting Emily regularly, and Karen saw a positive change in his behavior. He was more present and attentive, and Emily seemed to enjoy spending time with him. Karen hoped that this was a sign of lasting change. One evening, after a particularly successful charity event, Lydia invited Karen and James to her house for dinner. It was a small gesture, but it felt like a significant step toward mending their relationship. As they sat around the dinner table, Lydia shared stories from James's childhood, and Karen felt a sense of belonging. She saw the love and pride in Lydia's eyes as she spoke about her son, and it reminded her of the bond she shared with Emily. After dinner, as they were leaving, Lydia pulled Karen aside. "I can see how much you care for James, and I appreciate your efforts to rebuild trust. Keep showing me that this is real, and we'll get through this." Karen felt a wave of relief and gratitude. "Thank you, Lydia. We will." That night, as Karen and James walked back to the car, they felt a renewed sense of hope. They had made significant progress, but they knew there was still a long way to go. The path ahead was uncertain, but they were ready to face it together. James squeezed Karen's hand. "We're getting there, one step at a time." Karen smiled, feeling a deep sense of connection and determination. "Yes, we are." They drove home in comfortable silence, both lost in their thoughts. They had come a long way from the initial arrangement, and their feelings for each other had grown stronger. The challenges they faced had tested their relationship, but it had also brought them closer. As they pulled into the driveway, James turned to Karen. "I love you, Karen. I know this has been hard, but I want you to know that I'm committed to making this work." Karen felt tears welling up in her eyes. "I love you too, James. And I'm ready to face whatever comes next, as long as we're together." They shared a tender kiss, sealing their promise to each other. The road ahead was still uncertain, but they were no longer just partners in an arrangement. They were a team, ready to face the future with love and determination. The following weeks were a test of resilience for Karen and James. The scandal had quieted down in the public eye, but the scrutiny from those closest to them was still intense. They faced the challenge head-on, supporting each other through every hurdle. One afternoon, James received a call from his business partner, Daniel. "James, we need to talk. Our biggest investor is having second thoughts because of the recent scandal. They want a meeting to discuss the future of our partnership." James sighed, feeling the weight of the situation. "All right, Daniel. Schedule the meeting. We'll handle this." Karen noticed his concern and placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. "What's wrong?" "Our biggest investor is reconsidering their partnership because of the scandal," James explained. "We have a meeting with them tomorrow." Karen nodded, determination in her eyes. "We'll get through this, James. Just be honest and show them the strength of your character." The next day, Karen and James arrived at the investor's office. The atmosphere was tense as they were led into a conference room where the investor, Mr. Reynolds, awaited them. He was a stern-looking man in his 50s, known for his no-nonsense approach to business. "Mr. Carter, M.S. Mitchell, Mr. Reynolds greeted them, his tone formal. "Let's get straight to the point. The recent scandal has raised concerns about the stability and integrity of your company. We need reassurance that this partnership will not be jeopardized." James took a deep breath and began. Mr. Reynolds, I understand your concerns. The arrangement Karen and I had initially was a mistake, but our feelings for each other have grown into something real and genuine. We are committed to each other and to this company. Karen added, we've faced many challenges, but through it all, we've found strength in our partnership. James's dedication to his work and his integrity are unwavering. I can assure you that this scandal will not affect the company's future. Mr. Reynolds listened intently, his expression unreadable. After a moment, he leaned forward. I appreciate your honesty. Trust takes time to rebuild, but your willingness to face this head-on speaks volumes. We'll continue our partnership, but I expect transparency and continued dedication. Relief washed over Karen and James. Thank you, Mr. Reynolds, James said sincerely. We won't let you down. As they left the office, James turned to Karen. You were amazing in there. Thank you for standing by me. Karen smiled, feeling a sense of accomplishment. We're in this together, James. Always. Back at James's apartment, they received another piece of good news. Lydia called, inviting them to a family dinner to discuss the future. It seemed like an olive branch, and they eagerly accepted. The dinner at Lydia's house was a turning point. Lydia had softened significantly, and there was a sense of tentative reconciliation in the air. Over a meal filled with laughter and shared stories, Karen and James felt a renewed sense of hope. After dinner, Lydia pulled Karen aside for a private conversation. I've seen how hard you and James have worked to rebuild trust. I'm still hurt by the deception, but I can see that your feelings are genuine. I want to support you both. Karen felt tears of relief welling up. Thank you, Lydia. Your support means everything to us. Lydia nodded, her expression warm. Just promise me that you'll continue to be honest and open with each other. That's the foundation of any strong relationship. We will, Karen promised. We've learned that lesson the hard way. As they left Lydia's house, James and Karen felt a sense of triumph. They had faced significant challenges, but their commitment to each other had helped them overcome each one. The next challenge came in the form of Tom. Despite his efforts to be a better father, his unpredictability continued to create tension. One evening, after another canceled visit, Karen decided it was time to confront him. She met Tom at a local cafe, her resolve firm. Tom, if you want to be part of Emily's life, you need to be consistent and reliable. She needs stability, not disappointment. Tom looked remorseful. I know, Karen. I'm trying, but it's hard. Karen's voice softened, but her determination remained. I understand, but you need to do better. For Emily's sake. Tom nodded, realizing the gravity of her words. I will. I promise. With Tom promising to improve, Karen felt a weight lift off her shoulders. She knew that ensuring Emily's happiness and stability was paramount, and she was ready to fight for it. Back at James's apartment, they reflected on the day's events. We've come a long way, Karen said, leaning into James's embrace. Yes, we have, James replied, holding her close. And we'll keep moving forward, no matter what. The bond between them had grown stronger through each trial they faced. They were no longer just partners in an arrangement, they were partners in life, ready to face the future together. The next morning, James received a call from his business partner, Daniel. James, we need to talk. Our biggest investor is having second thoughts because of the recent scandal. They want a meeting to discuss the future of our partnership. James sighed, feeling the weight of the situation. All right, Daniel. Schedule the meeting. We'll handle this. Karen noticed his concern and placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. What's wrong? Our biggest investor is reconsidering their partnership because of the scandal, James explained. We have a meeting with them tomorrow. Karen nodded, determination in her eyes. We'll get through this, James. Just be honest and show them the strength of your character. The next day, Karen and James arrived at the investor's office. The atmosphere was tense as they were led into a conference room where the investor, Mr. Reynolds, awaited them. He was a stern-looking man in his 50s, known for his no-nonsense approach to business. Mr. Carter, M.S. Mitchell, Mr. Reynolds greeted them, his tone formal. Let's get straight to the point. The recent scandal has raised concerns about the stability and integrity of your company. We need reassurance that this partnership will not be jeopardized. James took a deep breath and began. Mr. Reynolds, I understand your concerns. The arrangement Karen and I had initially was a mistake, but our feelings for each other have grown into something real and genuine. We are committed to each other and to this company. Karen added, we've faced many challenges, but through it all, we've found strength in our partnership. James's dedication to his work and his integrity are unwavering. I can assure you that this scandal will not affect the company's future. Mr. Reynolds listened intently, his expression unreadable. After a moment, he leaned forward. I appreciate your honesty. Trust takes time to rebuild, but your willingness to face this head-on speaks volumes. We'll continue our partnership, but I expect transparency and continued dedication. Relief washed over Karen and James. Thank you, Mr. Reynolds, James said sincerely. We won't let you down. As they left the office, James turned to Karen. You were amazing in there. Thank you for standing by me. Karen smiled, feeling a sense of accomplishment. We're in this together, James. Always. Back at James's apartment, they received another piece of good news. Lydia called, inviting them to a family dinner to discuss the future. It seemed like an olive branch, and they eagerly accepted. The dinner at Lydia's house was a turning point. Lydia had softened significantly, and there was a sense of tentative reconciliation in the air. Over a meal filled with laughter and shared stories, Karen and James felt a renewed sense of hope. After dinner, Lydia pulled Karen aside for a private conversation. I've seen how hard you and James have worked to rebuild trust. I'm still hurt by the deception, but I can see that your feelings are genuine. I want to support you both. Karen felt tears of relief welling up. Thank you, Lydia. Your support means everything to us. Lydia nodded, her expression warm. Just promise me that you'll continue to be honest and open with each other. That's the foundation of any strong relationship. We will, Karen promised. We've learned that lesson the hard way. As they left Lydia's house, James and Karen felt a sense of triumph. They had faced significant challenges, but their commitment to each other had helped them overcome each one. The next challenge came in the form of Tom. Despite his efforts to be a better father, his unpredictability continued to create tension. One evening, after another canceled visit, Karen decided it was time to confront him. She met Tom at a local cafe, her resolve firm. Tom, if you want to be part of Emily's life, you need to be consistent and reliable. She needs stability, not disappointment. Tom looked remorseful. I know, Karen. I'm trying, but it's hard. Karen's voice softened, but her determination remained. I understand, but you need to do better. For Emily's sake. Tom nodded, realizing the gravity of her words. I will. I promise. With Tom promising to improve, Karen felt a weight lift off her shoulders. She knew that ensuring Emily's happiness and stability was paramount, and she was ready to fight for it. Back at James's apartment, they reflected on the day's events. We've come a long way, Karen said, leaning into James's embrace. Yes, we have, James replied, holding her close. And we'll keep moving forward, no matter what. The bond between them had grown stronger through each trial they faced. They were no longer just partners in an arrangement, they were partners in life, ready to face the future together. The weeks that followed were a testament to Karen and James's resilience and dedication. They worked tirelessly to rebuild trust and stability in their lives, both personally and professionally. The challenges they faced only strengthened their bond, proving to themselves and others that their love was genuine. One evening, as they sat in James's apartment, he turned to Karen with a thoughtful expression. "Karen, I've been thinking a lot about our future. We've been through so much together, and I can't imagine my life without you and Emily." Karen smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. "We feel the same way, James. You've become such an important part of our lives." James took her hands in his eyes filled with sincerity. "I want to make this official. I want us to be a family, in every sense of the word." Karen's heart skipped a beat as she realized what he was saying. "Are you? Karen Mitchell, will you marry me?" James asked, his voice steady and filled with hope. Tears of joy welled up in Karen's eyes as she nodded. "Yes, James. Yes, I will marry you." James slipped a beautiful ring onto her finger, and they embraced, feeling a profound sense of happiness and completeness. Emily, who had been quietly watching from the doorway, ran over to them, joining in their embrace. "We're going to be a real family," Emily exclaimed, her face glowing with happiness. The next few months were a whirlwind of preparations for the wedding. They decided on a small, intimate ceremony with close friends and family, wanting the day to be about their love and commitment rather than a grand spectacle. Lydia, having seen the strength and sincerity of their relationship, offered her full support. She helped with the wedding preparations, and her bond with Karen grew stronger. They spent many afternoons together, planning and discussing the future. On the day of the wedding, the weather was perfect. The ceremony was held in a beautiful garden, filled with blooming flowers and the gentle sound of birds singing. Karen walked down the aisle with Emily by her side, feeling a sense of peace and joy she had never known before. James stood at the altar, his eyes shining with love and anticipation. As Karen joined him, they exchanged vows that spoke of their journey, their challenges, and their unwavering commitment to each other. "I promise to love you, support you, and stand by your side through all of life's challenges," James said, his voice steady and filled with emotion. "You and Emily are my family, and I am so grateful to have you in my life." Karen's eyes glistened with tears as she responded. "I promise to love you, James, and to build a future with you filled with love, trust, and happiness. You have shown me what true partnership is, and I am so blessed to have you as my husband." With the exchange of rings and a heartfelt kiss, they were pronounced husband and wife. The guests cheered, and Emily jumped up and down with joy. It was a perfect moment, a testament to their love and resilience. The reception was a joyous celebration, filled with laughter, dancing, and heartfelt toasts. Lydia gave a speech that brought everyone to tears, expressing her pride and happiness for her son and his new family. "I have seen the strength of their love and the depth of their commitment," Lydia said, her voice filled with emotion. "I am so proud of the person James has become, and I am grateful to have Karen and Emily as part of our family." As the evening drew to a close, Karen and James shared a quiet moment together, reflecting on their journey. "We've come so far," Karen said softly, leaning into James's embrace. "Yes, we have," James replied, his voice filled with love. "And this is just the beginning. Our future is bright, and I can't wait to see what lies ahead." Karen smiled, feeling a deep sense of contentment. "As long as we're together, I know we can face anything." Their wedding day was the start of a new chapter in their lives, one filled with love, happiness, and the promise of a bright future. They had faced many challenges, but they had overcome them with strength and resilience. Now, they were ready to build a life together, as a family. A year had passed since Karen and James's wedding, and life had settled into a comfortable, fulfilling routine. They had built a strong, loving family, and their bond had only deepened with time. The scandal that once threatened to tear them apart had become a distant memory, replaced by new achievements and shared joys. Karen's career as a writer had taken off. Her first book, inspired by her journey with James and Emily, had been published to critical acclaim. Titled The Echoes of Love, it was a heartfelt story about finding love in unexpected places and overcoming life's challenges. The book's success brought Karen opportunities she had only dreamed of, including book signings, interviews, and invitations to speak at literary events. One sunny afternoon, Karen stood in a bustling bookstore, preparing for a book signing event. The store was filled with people eagerly waiting to meet her and get their copies signed. Emily, now 11, stood by her side, beaming with pride. "Mom, this is so exciting," Emily said, her eyes sparkling. Karen smiled, feeling a surge of pride and gratitude. "It is, sweetheart. I'm so glad you're here with me." James joined them, wrapping an arm around Karen's waist. "We're all so proud of you, Karen. You've worked so hard for this." The event began, and Karen spent the next few hours signing books and chatting with readers. Many of them shared how much her story had touched them, and Karen felt a deep sense of fulfillment knowing that her words had made a difference. As the event drew to a close, Karen looked around the bookstore, reflecting on how far she had come. Her journey had been filled with challenges, but it had also brought her incredible joy and love. She had found a true partner in James and a loving father for Emily. Together, they had built a life filled with laughter, support, and endless possibilities. After the signing, the family headed to a cozy cafe to celebrate. They sat at a corner table, enjoying their favorite treats and reminiscing about the past year. "I can't believe how much has changed," Karen said, sipping her coffee. "It feels like a dream." James smiled, his eyes filled with love. "It's all real, Karen. We've built this life together, and there's so much more to look forward to." Emily nodded enthusiastically. "Yeah, Mom. And you still have so many stories to write." Karen laughed, feeling a warm glow of happiness. "You're right, Emily. This is just the beginning." As they left the cafe and walked through the streets of Seattle, Karen felt a profound sense of gratitude. She had found her place in the world, surrounded by the people she loved most. Their journey had taught her the importance of resilience, honesty, and the power of love. They returned home to their cozy apartment, where Karen's writing desk stood by a large window overlooking the city. She sat down, opening her notebook to jot down new ideas. James and Emily joined her, their presence a comforting reminder of the family they had become. The evening passed in peaceful contentment, filled with the simple joys of family life. They shared stories, laughed together, and made plans for the future. Karen felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that they had created something beautiful and lasting. As she looked out at the Seattle skyline, Karen thought about all the possibilities that lay ahead. There were still challenges to face and dreams to pursue, but she knew that with James and Emily by her side, they could achieve anything. Their story was a testament to the power of love and determination. It was a journey that had taken them from a simple arrangement to a deep, abiding love. They had faced obstacles, but they had also found joy in the little moments and strength in each other. Karen closed her notebook, feeling a sense of completion. She knew that their story was far from over, but she was ready for whatever came next. With James and Emily, she had everything she needed to face the future with hope and confidence. As the night drew in, the family sat together on the couch, reading books and sharing quiet moments. The world outside was bustling and busy, but within their home, there was peace and love. Karen looked at James and Emily, her heart full. "I love you both so much," she said softly. James leaned over and kissed her gently. "We love you too, Karen. Always." Emily snuggled closer, her eyes drooping with sleep. "Love you, Mom." Karen smiled, feeling a deep sense of contentment. Their journey had brought them to this moment, and she knew that whatever the future held, they would face it together, as a family. Their love had echoed through the challenges and joys of life, creating a melody that would guide them through whatever came next. It was a love that had grown from an unexpected beginning into something beautiful and enduring. As they settled in for the night, Karen felt a sense of peace. Their story was one of love, resilience, and the strength of the human spirit. It was a story that would continue to unfold, filled with endless possibilities and the promise of a bright future.